every every type of armed resistance against both the settlers and also the Israeli occupying force in the West Bank. Doesn't matter if it's your favorite podcasters like Wife that participate in these raids. The violence that the Palestinians engage in an act of resistance against this illegal occupying force is literally legal, definitionally legal. Okay? It's just the truth. Doesn't matter if it's your favorite podcasters like Wife that participate in these raids.
So once again, Cenk's nephew has pulled a Cenk's nephew, and this time he's decided to encourage people out there in his audience to strike out against Ethan Klein's wife. That's what he means by even if a former podcaster's wife participated in this, and it's absolutely disgusting. And now we're seeing the pattern where obviously he knew exactly what he was saying, but now suddenly he's backtracking, trying to move off of it, and trying to shift the conversation and claiming that he was just taken out of context in that particular clip. And this is what we're going to talk about today. The absolute madness of one of the biggest political streamers on Twitch, somebody who is backed up by mainstream media and the corporation that is Twitch, issuing threats and encouraging violence against people he disagrees with, marginally, by the way, on the internet.com, and how absolutely insane this absolutely is. But before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
I don't watch your stream that much. I don't, I only
in the
see
waiting room.
bits and pieces of
Bro,
it.
that's crazy. Do you see the resemblance?
What?
You're this guy from Beetlejuice. In this photo, you have like the same coat and shit.
Yeah.
That's
you are a comedian.
I sure am, buddy. I see you laughing. All right, anyway.
So look, there is a long history between Ethan Klein of H3H3 Productions and Cenk's nephew of being Cenk Uker's nephew, and we talked about it in multiple different videos on this channel. And the long and short of it is that Ethan used to host a show with Cenk's nephew. It was a political show where Ethan often deferred to Cenk's nephew as if he was some kind of an expert. This was a terrible decision on Ethan Klein's part, and it all came to a head post October 7th when they did a Leftovers episode where Ethan started to realize that Cenk's nephew was fully on board with terrorist organizations and people who directly praise terrorists. Now, there is a misinformed narrative out there that Ethan Klein went ultra-Zionist or something of the sort. Nothing could be further from the truth. We've shown you these clips time and time again. Anybody can watch the Leftovers episode in full. It will be linked in the description, but needless to say, for the first 2.5 hours, they were 100% in agreement. Ethan Klein was condemning every random person that they brought up and had clips of that was saying something bad about Arabs post October 7th, and then he asked Cenk's nephew, his friend of years, to condemn people who were endorsing the terrorist attacks like the Music Festival massacre, and of course attacking and killing any Israeli at any point in time ever, and Cenk's nephew refused.
Palestinians have the legal ground to violently seize back their own homes from the settlers. This is a reality, and that is precisely the reason why they have to exist under endless occupation in the West Bank.
You know what? And that's why I say, if it was settlers, that would be a lot more understandable. Yeah. But let's not obfuscate, okay? I understand what you're saying. But this dude just called babies militants.
No, I understand. And there are baby settlers as well. But there are baby settlers as well. There are babies in the settlement.
This is where the famous baby settlers clip comes in.
It's a super chat.
Did the Palestinians actually take civilian hostage, or is that fake news? I don't care.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he agrees with him. So let's just
go on.
Clip.
The occupiers are not civilians. That is what it comes down to. Like if Germany, let's say Germany to be non-controversial.
That's him, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Controversial.
And not that it matters.
United States, and they said, you know what, Cincinnati, Ohio is our ancestral home, and everyone knows that's blatantly false. But they take your home, they murder your grandma, they bulldoze like your neighbor's house. Are those people civilians there? No, they're occupiers, and those are criminals. There are no civilians there.
So according to Second Thought, he says that every Israeli is an occupier, and there are no citizens there.
I know, but
here's one.
No, of course there are examples of this. It's just entirely and utterly inconsequential, and I 100% stand by that.
It's not. He's an influential man. When you're expressing these kinds of...
Okay, let's walk through that. What do you think is the negative consequence of this? Do you think that people are going to see this and go, oh, I should go to
So
a
should I not care about it?
I think that if you look at the reality, and I know you recognize it, a YouTuber saying this kind of thing and spending any time or any effort on this, when your moral position is clear, when mine is clear, spending any time on this whatsoever to be like, we got to clean up our own homes here, deviates from the actual message that must be unflinching. The message is that these violent means of ensuring that the occupation continues is going to inevitably lead to more violence that Israelis will be subjected to as well.
And of course, when Cenk's nephew refused to condemn Second Thought for saying everybody in Israel is okay to be killed because they're all occupiers, and Ethan Klein being really frustrated that Cenk's nephew would not condemn these radical words. And of course, this led to Ethan doing an investigation into Cenk's nephew, looking into his streams and all his other posts, and realizing that the reason why he won't condemn his friends that are endorsing terrorist actions is because Cenk's nephew himself endorses terrorist actions. He likes terrorism. That's what he discovered. Now look, there's so much more that we covered on this channel related to this particular beef. We have the content nuke from Ethan Klein. We also have Cenk's nephew and his orbiters encouraging people to call in false CPS complaints to Ethan Klein, sending him human skulls, which is obviously a death threat, and all these different various ways that they targeted Ethan, his wife, and his family, issued them death threats, and all the problems that has caused in Ethan's life, again, based on what is 5% disagreement. And remember, Ethan and Cenk's nephew did a debate after much of this where they discussed their issues, and Ethan conceded to a bunch of things that he should have never conceded to in that debate because his issue wasn't about being pro-Zionist or anything of the sort. It was about Cenk's nephew encouraging all of this harassment towards him and all of his orbiters constantly lying about him.
And every type of armed resistance against both the settlers and also the Israeli occupying force in the West Bank. Doesn't matter if it's your favorite podcasters like Wife that participate in these raids. The violence that the Palestinians engage in an act of resistance against this illegal occupying force is literally legal, definitionally legal. Okay? It's just the truth.
Now, with me touching on all of that background, when you see a clip of Cenk's nephew talking about how it's okay to violently resist and or kill the occupying force in the West Bank, even if the person who participated in that, participated, by the way, is past tense, is your favorite podcaster's wife, you understand what Cenk's nephew is doing. And by the way, this is also a part of a long pattern of behavior from Cenk's nephew. This is a guy who quote tweeted Senator Tom Cotton once when he disagreed with him with a blueprint of the gun that was used to kill the Japanese prime minister. This is somebody who also encouraged people to kill Senator Rick Scott. So again, this is something that he always does, where he does death threats, encourages violence, supports terrorism, and then when he gets called out, he says he was taken out of context, and he tries to give a longer explanation that ends up providing him cover. Now, obviously, Ethan absolutely furious because this is a consistent pattern among these absolute freaks and weirdos to target not just him, but members of his family, including his wife. And Ethan responded in a very sensible, logical way.
This is his playbook. Never apologize. Always double down. Always accuse your accusers of being hallucinating, crazy, etc. This is exactly his playbook. Since Hassan and many of his friends have employed this violent rhetoric against me and my family, me and Hila rarely leave our houses or make public appearances because of the constant and overwhelming sense of danger. The last 2 years, we've spent more time inside than ever before. And we've stopped doing our biannual live shows, right, for over a year because of the fear of violence being enacted not just on us, but on our fans and our crew. This, by the way, is resulting in the crew directly losing money, as these live shows, we would donate the entire box office to the crew. And we did this twice a year. It was a significant source of revenue for them that's now been shut off out of fear. We've been forced to hire a full-time guard at the office because everyone in the office was feeling unsafe. And me and Hila are both waiting for our concealed carry license so that we can finally feel safe in public again, which is not easy to get in California, and it's going to take like over a year probably. And I usually choose not to talk about this stuff because the provocateurs who will revel in it, because this is their goal, right? They want me to be afraid. They want me to be in my house. They want me to avoid doing public events. They want me to cower. So this is very much giving them what they want. However, in this moment, I do feel the entire context of how language like this affects me and my family and my crew and everybody around me. Twitch has served as the most prolific source of leftist radicalization, terrorist propaganda, and anti-West sentiment.
Now, look, nothing Ethan said right there is wrong. Ethan is 100% right to be concerned about this. Again, this has impacted him in his day-to-day lives. These people are so unhinged that they called CPS on him, sent him human skulls. Again, run down the list of the long train of abuses against Ethan Klein by these individuals, and of course, the consequences of them pushing this idea that Ethan Klein is a giant genocide endorser or anything of the sort, when he said multiple times in clear, undeniable terms the exact opposite. And by the way, a lot of people have sent me tweets from Anna Kasparian where she's doubling up on the narrative that Ethan is pro-genocide because Ethan Klein decided to attack Anna Kasparian, and I need to make something 100% clear to everybody out there in the audience. I don't have any loyalty to Ethan Klein. I don't know Ethan Klein. I've never spoken to Ethan Klein. I'm not a fan of Ethan Klein or anything of the sort, and I actually think it was dumb of Ethan Klein to pick a fight with Anna Kasparian based on whatever the hell he decided to pick a fight with her on. Again, I'm not really on Instagram, so I'm not really following the Instagram stories and whatnot. So in that respect, I do think it's perfectly fine for Anna Kasparian to attack Ethan Klein back. That being said, Anna should know better than to repeat the lies being told by Cenk's nephew and all these different people that are encouraging death threats and all these problems that Ethan is dealing with. He is 100% not pro-genocide or Zionist. Anna writes that in her tweet. And again, while I don't care about the foul language at the end of the tweet or anything else that she said, the fact that this was included in there is genuinely disappointing, and honestly, it's shameful. There's no doubt about that. I've talked a lot on this channel about all the things that Anna's doing recently that I think are rather positive. It's not that I didn't know that Anna was anti-Israeli. Again, the Young Turks have dedicated basically half of their shows over the last 2 years to this particular topic. But this right here, she should know is not true, and she should not be tweeting it. And the fact that she's aligning herself in this attack on Ethan in this exact way with all the same people, including Cenk's nephew, who basically knifed her in the back when she started to say reasonable things about crime, is absurd, is insane. Again, you want to fight it out with Ethan, feel free. I'm not his keeper, I'm not his protector, but don't participate in the lies. So yeah, people have been sending me those tweets asking me to comment. That's my comment. 100% condemnation to perpetuating the lies that, again, are leading to the harassment of Ethan in real life and the death threats that he's receiving. And by the way, Anna has also talked about how she's been receiving death threats from pro-Israel people, wildly inappropriate as well. I don't know why I gotta be the arbiter of the obvious, but yeah, this stuff should be obvious. Now, of course, Cenk's nephew decided that he was going to do the thing that he always does, where he tries to retreat from the radical thing that we all understand he was doing, which was calling for and endorsing violence against Ethan Klein's wife in order to stir up fear amongst Ethan and his camp by basically doing it again, but at the same time blaming the United Nations for this.
Podcaster's wife has gotten a lot of attention because Hila previously served in the IDF. And this also has a...
Well, no. She didn't just previously serve in the IDF. She participated in an illegal raid in the West Bank as a part of her service in the Israeli occupying force. And not only is what I'm saying not like a, gray area or anything, it's just international law, right? Ethan Klein himself has, on numerous occasions, agreed with that sentiment. He has actually presented it in his context nuke, talking about his bona fides for how much he is an advocate, a stalwart ally of the Palestinians, as he has said. Ethan Klein has said, West Bank settlers are valid military targets. Ethan Klein has admitted that his wife is a terrorist on stream.
By the way, this is one of the reasons why Cenk's nephew is pure scum through and through, because for a guy who says that every clip that actually shows who he actually is, that's not out of context, is somehow out of context as his defense when he says something awful, what he just did right there is take Ethan Klein out of context, because when this conversation happened between him and Cenk's nephew, which by the way will be linked in full in the description of this video, Cenk's nephew asks Ethan if he thinks his wife's a terrorist, and he unequivocally says no.
Okay. Your wife was in the IDF.
Yeah.
Do you believe your wife is a terrorist?
Of course not.
Then for about 30 more minutes, Cenk's nephew keeps attacking him on his wife over and over and over again, and Ethan, who says that he wants to move on to a different topic because obviously this is a way to obfuscate the point of their conversation, which is of course Cenk's nephew's blatant support for actual terrorist organizations. Ethan, as a way to move on, is like, yeah, sure, whatever, it doesn't matter, like, let's move on to the next topic.
Don't even know what the you're referring to. You're just calling my wife a terrorist. Like, well, give me a break, dude.
No.
She did mandatory.
She has talked
Let me
on
ask
your
you a
podcast.
question. Hassan,
She's talked
please,
on your
you gotta
podcast
let me
about
talk.
how she went on a raid.
You have
she
to
was
let me
bored. She had
talk.
a
The fact
secretary
that you're
job.
just
It's
talking
mandatory
over me
conscription. It
and
was an
being
adventure
louder
for
does
her.
not mean you're right. I promise.
What?
Being louder and talking more does not mean you're right. Okay, it's good to listen to what I have to say. She's part of mandatory conscription.
Did Hila not volunteer? Did Hila not volunteer to go to the West Bank on a raid because she was bored? In Ramallah.
Yeah, she's 18. It's understandable. We don't know what that guy did, though. We don't know what the raid was for.
He could have been a
what if he
vicious
killed
terrorist
people?
monster.
Yeah. What if he killed people? Of course. If he killed people, of course he would be worthy of being arrested.
Ethan, is Ramallah a part of Israeli territory?
I mean, it's complicated, right? It's under occupation. No, I don't think so, but it's under occupation, right?
Okay. So why was your wife in Ramallah?
Maybe are getting a terrorist that killed civilians. She sat in a car.
It's not complicated.
She sat in a car and didn't even leave it and never did it again.
Your wife participated in an illegal raid according to international human rights. That is the reality. Now,
are you upset if this person killed like a child? Would you be upset if this person they arrested like stabbed people? Like you don't know what you're talking about.
If she were to talk about,
okay, fine. My wife's a terrorist, bro. What the? It's so boring.
No, stop. Listen to my words.
No, my wife is a terrorist.
So Cenk's nephew, the scumbag that he actually is, the absolute liar that he actually is, decides that he's going to rip this from the context of how it was said and then claim that Ethan earnestly said that his own wife was a terrorist. Again, for a guy who constantly cries and says that he's being taken out of context when he absolutely is not being taken out of context, this is just disgusting, but what we can expect from Cenk's nephew.
Were you saying if your favorite podcast wife was in Israel performing illegal war crimes that they would be illegal target? That's how I understood it. No, I'm saying in the process of anyone at all, it could be your mom, your dad, your favorite podcaster, anyone that engages. Okay, because the conversation that I was having was more so about the way that people look at those who adorn the garb, like state violence versus non-state actors, right? Versus any kind of resistance against state violence. And what I was trying to do there was to say, it doesn't matter who it is that puts on the Israeli occupying force gear and participates in an illegal raid in the West Bank. They are, if they receive violence in retaliation from the occupied force, that is legal. That is a legal act of resistance.
Now look, guys, it is not hard, it is not difficult in any way, shape, or form to not talk about before your audience all these different various scenarios where it would be okay to kill your political opponent. Again, Ethan Klein was in the IDF something like 20 years ago. Cenk's nephew's talking about how the UN ruled that this was an illegal occupation, and if you have issues with what he said related to the occupation and resistance to the occupation, you should take it up with the United Nations. And again, this sounds like, I guess it's solid to people who honestly are snickering and laughing at the idea of somebody going out and attacking Ethan Klein and his family because they're absolute scumbags. But honestly, the efficacy of that UN resolution is a side tangent that's not really relevant to this conversation. The point I'm trying to make is that Cenk's nephew is deliberately going out of his way to stoke up anger, hatred, and of course, maybe somebody will take action based on that anger and hatred against Ethan and his wife because he doesn't like that he is personally being criticized.
I have also specified that IDF veterans are not valid.
So why did you bring it up?
Why did you bring me up?
You know, like he's like, no, no, she's not a valid target. She's not been in the army, and this happened 20 years ago. Why'd you bring it up?
And why do you bring me up
Military
regularly as a terrorist?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that regularly?
Yeah.
Cenk's nephew was never talking about Hila Klein in the past on that particular raid, which, by the way, again, as she said time and time again, she was sitting in the car because she was invited out as a secretary at the IDF, and she never actually went into the building or did anything in participation of that.
Destiny has nothing to do with what Hassan did to me. I don't know anything about what Destiny did. This is not a three-way situation.
I didn't even know anything about this. Apparently, Destiny, in response to Hassan's essentially calling Hila a valid military target, I guess Destiny, who's a total dumbass, who again, we had like a flawless victory here, and this dumbass went there and gave Hassan the ability to cry and be the victim.
Right.
Which he did. Now he's been on his Instagram stories being like, oh my God, I'm getting death threats, you guys.
Yeah.
What do we get? This is unbelievable. We need to do something about it. It's like, oh, you don't like it when people give death threats to you?
Pathetic.
That's fucking really interesting, dude. But because of Destiny's dumb ass, he went on Discord, and he said something like, somebody should kill Hassan Piker. Just something brazenly insane. For the record, I don't believe anybody should do violence on his
stupid and crazy, and we would never say anything like that. And I have nothing to do with what Destiny says.
Yeah. Well, apparently he's my closest collaborator, if you ask. He's hiding under the desk.
If
No,
Destiny
but it's
was
like-
my roommate,
It's like, yeah.
Hold on. Hassan has something to say.
Oh,
if Destiny was my roommate, I'd get him laid all the time.
right, because you're a bro.
Now that's closeness.
Now, by the way, there's another wrinkle in this particular story that honestly I feel like is a bit ridiculous to be mentioned along with this, and that is some logs from Destiny, another streamer, where he's allegedly saying that based on what Cenk's nephew is saying about Hila Klein, it would be justified to argue for him to be killed, which honestly is just another stupid spiraling effect of this kind of rhetoric being permeated by all these different various streamers. Obviously, it's not acceptable to harm anybody involved in any of the stories that I'm talking about. It is ridiculous. It's reprehensible that these streamers always seem to go there. But let us be perfectly honest. What's actually happening is that Cenk's nephew said something outrageous. Destiny responded in a hyperbolic way. And now Cenk's nephew is acting like out of nowhere, Destiny is targeting him and he's trying to get Destiny deplatformed from YouTube as a consequence of that, which again would hold a little bit more water if 8 minutes prior to these Destiny logs, Cenk's nephew wasn't actively stoking up violent sentiment against somebody that he disagreed with politically. Again, all of these people are freaks. All of these people are disgusting, reprehensible. They all like to play this game where they stir up violent rhetoric, and it has real consequences. They're all hypocrites, and I've had enough of this nonsense. The only one that I've mentioned throughout the course of this video that doesn't do this sort of thing is Ethan Klein, as far as I know, as of right now, but who the hell knows? Maybe this guy is off the wagon, and we'll see something similar in the future. Guys, it's not that difficult to figure out what Cenk's nephew is doing, what he's trying to do, because he's being blatant and obvious about it. The simplest answer oftentimes is the correct answer, and in this particular case, that holds 100% true. He wants people to stoke up fear, threaten violence against Ethan, because he's trying to intimidate him, because he doesn't like Ethan criticizing him. And by the way, one of the funniest clips that I've seen recently was Cenk's nephew possibly implying that he might might sue Ethan Klein for defamation.
This standard was evenly applied. Don't you think that spending the last year calling me a dangerous Hamas mouthpiece, a Hamas terrorist, actively demanding that people take action against me?
Now, to be clear, while Cenk's nephew is claiming that Ethan is encouraging people to take action against him due to his terrorist support, the action that he's referring to is not violence, which is what Cenk's nephew is actively encouraging against Ethan Klein and his family, as well as his orbiters, who are doing the same exact thing. He's talking about Ethan Klein saying, contact Twitch. Twitch should do something about his open terrorist support. So he's equivocating him calling for violence, him discussing all these scenarios where you can kill Ethan Klein's wife, with Ethan saying, yeah, the Twitch platform allowing this is crazy. Which, by the way, Cenk's nephew actively trying to get Destiny deplatformed from YouTube because he's saying that Destiny's saying crazy things. So again, no leg to stand on in any regard.
Would put you directly in harm's way for legal repercussions. You spent the past 22 months of genocide actively making a villain out of anyone and everyone, firing off hundreds of Instagram stories, so much so that you couldn't even imagine yourself. You couldn't believe the amount of Instagram stories you'd posted before this debate. You thought it was a lie when I brought up the receipts. You couldn't believe it. And then you turned around and fired off 10 plus stories every day. To this day. It's ridiculous. What do you think? Spreading misinformation about me, constantly clipping me out of context, regularly demanding that people take action against me at a time when the government is taking action against me. What do you think you're doing? You know exactly what the you're doing. Okay? The notion that I was invoking your wife that you also openly recognize participated in an illegal raid in the West Bank as a part of the occupying forces that did a war crime for any reason other than the fact that she did do that is ridiculous. Okay?
For all the times that Ethan Klein called him a terrorist supporter, and while Ethan Klein can beat a defamation suit easily from Cenk's nephew with a slap defense, in my opinion, he should actually go for the defense of truth, because in reality, Ethan Klein has told no lies about Cenk's nephew's blatant, open support of terrorist organizations. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts on the latest goings on between Ethan and Cenk's nephew. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. As per usual, if you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Cenk's nephew going after Ethan's family yet again. Till next time.